Hi, my name is Carol Williams, and I'm happy to be here tonight with the Veterans Issues on CAN TV 21 here in Chicago. The organization that I'm representing is called the United States Veterans Arts Program, and we're here in Chicago. Our mission is to support veterans in the arts and also to support veterans who want to pursue their art in any medium that they choose. We do a donation process called Artistic Tools, where we get resources, contributions, and we give them to people who do have an artistic vision but don't have necessarily the resources to pursue them. So far we've donated quite a few musical instruments. We try not to stay on the music medium quite as much. We've done a computer, a camera. We also provide to anyone who might be interested to subsidize the classes that they give here at CAN TV as sort of a scholarship program. We have funds for paying for the production classes here at CAN TV. It's a wonderful opportunity for any veteran in Chicago who might want to pursue learning about video, learning about production, learning about photography. Tonight we're going to actually have a veteran who is an artist, quite an artist actually. He's not someone who I would call someone who's just pursuing art. He is a professional artist. He's an amazing artist. He's a Vietnam veteran. His name is Konrad Hack. And he actually was in the combat art program in Vietnam as a combat artist. We're going to bring him on. We're going to tell you a little bit about how to get in touch with our program, which is called the United States Veterans Arts Program. And this is our website. You can call us up, you can email us, you can get in touch with us, ask us about our Artistic Tools program if you'd like, see how you can apply online. We are very happy to get in touch with anyone who is looking to pursue, either as a student or as a first-time artist, anything that you think would be making you able to express what you'd like to do. We'd also like to remind you that this is a call-in show. If you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about today, we'd love to hear from you. And we're going to introduce you to Konrad Hack right now. This is Konrad Hack, who is my guest today. He is from Chicago, went to Lane Tech High School as, of course, a teenager.
Yes.
And he's going to tell you a little bit about how in the world did he end up in Vietnam painting for the combat art program.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight.
Great.
Like you said, I went to Lane Tech High School, and they got a call from WGN, and the senior art teacher wanted me to come over and work at WGN. So I started there back in '63, my senior year in high school.
Wow.
And I worked my way through college. I went to the School of the Art Institute in the University of Chicago. And after I finished my degree, my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, I went to the draft board. My student deferment was up, so I was going to be drafted. So everyone said enlist.
Of course.
So I did. I enlisted in the Army. I was regular Army, and I went in the Army in '68. And I didn't want to become an officer because I had a nice job at WGN, and I was newly married. And so what I did is I put down art. Every time I wanted to, they asked what you want to do, I'd write down art. And in the true military or government way, they trained me in artillery, which is always a funny story. I had dinner with the Secretary of the Air Force for a presentation a few weeks ago, and I told him the story, and he laughed. He thought that was pretty funny, and I said, naturally, you were in the Air Force, and he said, no, I was actually drafted in the Army in 1970. So it's interesting how we get from one place to another and pursue our careers.
So the Army might have thought that your ART was short for artillery.
Abbreviation,
that was
yes.
their acronym for it, of course. And That's probably a common experience that a lot of people who thought that they would enlist rather than be drafted and ended up in something that was not quite what they were banking on. So then once you got to Vietnam, you were in the Army and you went to Vietnam. And then how did you end up painting?
Well, I was sent to the 9th Infantry Division, and we were down in the Mekong Delta at Dong Tam, and I was assigned to the 1st and 84th Field Artillery, and waiting to be assigned to a battery. I decided I would go out looking for another job. Since I had art talent, I walked around Dong Tam base camp, and what they did was they had a combat art team, 19th Military History Detachment. And I saw these gentlemen in there, and they were painting, and I thought, my goodness, that's what I should be doing. And there was a sergeant who was coming back to the United States. He was de-roasting, his tour was up. And he asked if I had any samples, and I said, yes, I did. I had samples from WGN. So I brought him slides, and he showed it to the commanding officer, who was Major Keeley at the time. And he said, you're just the man we're looking for.
Well, that was convenient.
It was for everything. Timing, I think, in life is very, very important. Major General Ewell was getting his 3rd star, and he was going to be taking over for 2 Field Force, and they wanted to give him a gift, and I was the gift.
Ah, I see. Wow, that's quite a gift. Well, before we go on, do we still have a caller on the line? And is there a question that you have about the topic of the show, or do you want to ask Konrad Hack a question?
Hi, just a question for Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to ask, being involved in the Army as an artist, do they in general try to focus your art in a direction that would be something like drafting, or something of like strategic military usage, like any kind of map making or anything like that?
Well, they had cartographers, they had people who would do that. The combat art team, part of the 19th Military History, we were there to document the history of the 9th Division of the Army. We were under no restrictions, there was no direction. They just said go out and paint, as filter what you see through your artwork and record history. So I felt I was very fortunate not to be over art directed and or controlled in any way. I want to get back to the part where they said, excuse me, I was the gift. They wanted me to do the general's portrait. That was the gift.
We actually have paintings that we're going to show on the overhead. Caller, if you're interested in seeing some of Mr. Hack's work from Vietnam. We have other pieces also. So we'd like to go ahead and show that, and we have a picture of you with the painting of the general that you did. And I'd like to start off with this is one of your self-portrait of you in Vietnam, I understand.
Well, actually, this is after Vietnam. You can tell I'm in a flight suit. I do paintings for the Secretary of the Air Force. I document the history of the Air Force now. And this is after a jet ride I had. And the reason I started out with this image was the simple fact that over the many years after I left Vietnam, I got involved with the Navy, with NASA, with the Air Force. So I've been kind of a military historian my whole life.
Well, tell us a little bit about this photo.
This is a young man who, just out of art school, who was assigned to the 1st and the 84th Field Artillery, issued a weapon, and you can see I was, I had no idea what I was doing.
I don't think you knew how to use the buttons on your vest either, did you?
Well, no, I didn't. It was, it's very warm.
Yes, it was very warm.
Very hot.
Here's another photo that you can tell us about.
Yeah, that's the portrait I did of General Ewell before he got his 3rd star, and you can see I took his photograph and then went ahead and had a piece of masonite made, and I did the general's portrait. And he wrote me a really nice letter thanking me for doing it, and he stated in there that I'm 6'4", and he said that I stood head and shoulders above all other combat artists, and I thought that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek,
my.
but he did appreciate the painting.
Well, here's one of your actual paintings from Vietnam. Is that correct?
Yes, I call this a night hunter. It's one of the first pieces I did. It's a oil on masonite, and what we would do is we would go out in the field and we would do drawings and do sketches and take photographs, and then we would come back to base camp and do the finished work. After I did the general's portrait, I was made the NCOIC of the art team. I was the non-commissioned officer in charge, and so I kind of ran the program. There were 5 combat artists, including myself, and it was a matter of we wanted to make sure that no one was off on their own and we didn't know where they were, where we couldn't get them support.
Did you ever feel that your safety was in danger?
Well, I got shot down in a helicopter.
Okay, well that would be
And
definitely...
that was definitely an interesting moment. And also, I was told that they asked me what needed to be done to the general's portrait, and I said, well, it needed to be varnished in a month or 2. And I got a call from 2 Field Force, and the general wanted his portrait varnished. So I got into a helicopter, a Loach, and we headed towards 2 Field Force, and they shot the rotor off, and we crashed and went into a rice paddy and had a little bit of a adventure there.
And that was did the painting get varnished?
Well, the painting was
yes.
up in headquarters, and yes, it was varnished. Okay. But it was kind of a surreal moment knowing that I got shot down going to varnish an oil painting in Vietnam.
Can you tell us a little bit about this painting?
This one is called Point Crossing. The Mekong Delta, we had all the tributaries in the Mekong Delta, and there's a squad. There's a number of soldiers that you can see and cannot see that are crossing the river. You know, when you're going out on patrol, you want to kind of spread the line out. And I went off to the side and took some photographs and did this painting. This is part of the collection, the Army Art Collection at Fort McNair in Washington, D.C.
I'm going to switch to another smaller photo and give me just a second to zoom into that.
This is a night fire mission. It's an 8-inch howitzer, which I was trained on. And this painting actually is at the National Vietnam Veterans Art Museum here in Chicago. So those who are local can go ahead and see these pieces. It's a night fire mission. I wanted to create some stress and some strife. So I put smoke and red fire behind it. And it gives us the feeling that they're actually shooting the big 8-inch howitzer. They're all dug in.
And this one, is this also at the museum?
This is also at the museum. It's called Hot LZ, Red Smoke, and you'd go out with infantry units. And I found it was whenever possible, I would take my time. I would find out where units were going. This is probably the 47th Infantry, part of the 9th Infantry Division, and they would do a helicopter assault, and all the helicopters would come into an area. And the troops would either get off the helicopters or climb on the helicopters. And whenever possible, I would try to stay very close to the helicopters and not spend a lot of time sleeping in the field.
This is really beautiful.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is a patrol. We had a number of, there was a lot of jungle around Dong Tam, and this is some sketches and drawings that I had made and eventually turned into a painting. This is at Fort Lewis, Washington in Seattle.
And I'm going to show one more from your Vietnam period that's actually you. Yes? That's
the kid, and you can see we were pretty tight unit. I like to paint on masonite because if you paint on canvas, it would flop too much and the moisture would affect the surface. So here I am in my studio along with the other guys, and some of the paintings up on the wall that we did. I made sure everything was recorded. We gave code numbers to everything, file numbers, so that we had a couple of generals come in taking paintings off the wall to take home with them. We didn't want to lose them from the collection.
We're going to show some more photos that Konrad, not photos, but portraits that Konrad has painted. We're going to talk a little bit more about art in general. I would like to mention that we were both with the 9th Infantry Division, different times, of course. You were there when the 9th was in Vietnam. I was with the 9th Infantry Division in the 80s, late 1970s. Slightly different scenario, I'm sure, but Konrad is also a teacher at Robert Morris, and that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about, is your role of an educator as an artist. With USVAP, with our organization, we don't think that we want to suggest that anyone could aspire to the level of talent and ability that you have. It would be an amazing thing if someone could pick up something to draw with, or a paint brush, and create such things. And we understand that that's not the goal of expressing ourselves with an art form, and particularly with either drawing or painting. And when you, as an educator, are working with people who are not primarily artists and are not pursuing art as a profession, what kinds of things do you talk to them about, with the importance of whatever it is that they want to do, with drawing, painting, conceptualizing any of their ideas?
Well, I teach graphic design students at Robert Morris University, but I also teach a lot of humanities classes. I have nursing students, I have business students. I have, right now I have a number of hockey players and golfers. I've had the bowling team. But I teach creative expressions, whether it is digital photography or whether it is an actual painting class. And I tell the students the main idea is that what you have to do is you have to organize your thoughts. And also to be able to focus in on what you want to express. Look at something and understand what you're actually seeing. And it's the world today is it's all about communications. And if you can sit down and visually make a sketch or draw something or carry an idea over, that's what I'm trying to express. Now my students right now, it's a Hume 108 program, and they're learning oil painting, believe it or not. We have a 10-week program. And at the end of 10 weeks, I expect them to come up with at least 4 or 5 acceptable paintings. And we teach them materials and techniques. But I'm always stressing the idea of if you can look at something and understand what you're looking at. Because we're in this day and age, what we're really doing is everything comes at us fast. And if you go on a website and you don't get what you're looking for within a few seconds, you go on to something else.
True.
And I think if people actually stop and slow down and see the big picture, and then can break that into increments and organize. The Greeks always said what it is. It's a matter of, we want to make structure out of chaos. And I always felt that Plutarch said, a mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a mind is there to be lit. We want to fire up that inspiration. So if we take that vessel and we set it on fire and people really enjoy what they're doing. And I have, there are a number of adult students I teach both day and evening classes. And there are a lot of moms that sit down and say, I've got my kids painting with me. And a lot of the students come back later and say, I'm still drawing and still painting and I really enjoyed your class. And if anything, it's therapeutic.
Well, that is the subject that we'd like to suggest to listeners that is the reason why we're here today. We're not trying to make therapy out of art, or we're not trying to suggest that people should pursue art as a specific therapy, but we definitely want to impress the notion that it's an innate thing that people have, is the ability to express themselves on an artistic platform, whether or not it's painting or singing or dancing, and that it's not a competitive goal to try to do things the way you have done them.
Exactly. I tell my students, we're not trying to get them to be professional artists, but to be able to express themselves. When we were in 4th and 5th grade, we at some point we put our crayons down and we were being judged.
Crayons.
And the key right now is to take some time. I know a lot of veterans, they've had their own experiences. And if they would just sit down and do sketches and drawings and try to come up with some images that they feel help express their feelings and emotions, and then find outlets to show them, whether you go to libraries. I'm sure there are a number of locations around Chicago where you can exhibit those, and you don't have to sell them.
Right.
But what it does, it's
Right.
sharing what you've gone through with other people so they know that they're not alone out there.
And other people do need to hear that. It's more important for other people to see that you're there and that you have something to say. And speaking of that, we have a caller who is either going to ask a question or have a comment here. Caller, would you go ahead?
Yeah, hi. I wanted to ask the gentleman there if he ever considered when he was on duty in Vietnam or after portraying some of the horrifying things that people experience in combat, on canvas.
You know, it's interesting. A number of the artists on the team did portray more of the violence that they saw. I've always felt that it was my mission to honor those who served, to show them doing their duty, whether it was in firing a weapon or firing an artillery round or flying a helicopter. You know, everyone from the mechanics to the soldiers and the boots on the ground had something to do, and I want them to be proud of their service. And that's carried over into my mission with the Air Force. You know, rather than showing, I show some explosions, I show some of the actual combat that's going on, but I don't show the gore of it. And it's, as far as the history is concerned, now when I've done some paintings for the 1st Division Museum, I've actually portrayed Civil War battles, people being shot, and I've got a painting, which you might see later, of Lieutenant Monteith receiving action that he served on D-Day with the 1st Division and was later killed in action and awarded the Medal of Honor. So yes, I have painted some of the actual battles that were portrayed historically.
Speaking of some of your other paintings, we'd like to go to some more overheads and look at some of Konrad Hack's later paintings that he's done, and he's going to tell you a little bit about that. We're going to go to the overheads and hope that this is very clear and visible.
Well,
I can get the whole thing in there.
I was part of the NASA art program, and I was assigned to 4 different launches, and I had an opportunity to be on the perimeter road, and I thought this had kind of a lunar landscape, and the power of the Atlantis prior to the launch on Pad B the following day. But I thought to keep the people out of it was important, to show that all this hard mechanical, the force that's all pent up, it hasn't been launched yet.
Mm-hmm. Boy, it doesn't really look like a painting that you would think. Now this is very interesting. Tell us about this.
This is Eileen Collins. She's the first female. She's a colonel in the Air Force, the first female to pilot and be a mission commander for NASA. And what I did is I photographed her. I portrayed her sitting on the launch pad. It was a night launch, and you can see the Mir space station on the left, and her head is rising up into the Earth, because what they do is when they get into space, they actually face the craft, the shuttle, towards the Earth. And so I wanted her to appear to be very strong and very upright. And then there was this black hole in her helmet, so I reflected the Earth into it along with the moon to fill up that negative space.
And we have a couple more. This is another Air Force?
No, this is actually the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is at the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola, Florida. I had a chance to go out on a Tiger cruise, and this is the flight deck from the Lincoln. It was one of the newest carriers.
This is one of your Civil War pieces?
This is one of my Civil War pieces. It's the first A Battery, the first Illinois Volunteers, and these are reenactors that I found that actually reenact that battery, and I put it together, and it's Battle of the Cedars. It's an actual battle that took place during the Civil War.
And we're going to just show, of course, my favorite one that you did.
My buddy Chemo.
Which is...
one of our Buffalo Soldier pieces.
Yes, absolutely.
And this was a great piece. This is a Morgan horse, and Chemo has, he's sitting on a Civil War saddle and an actual Civil War bridle. It's all canteens, weapons, everything is originally Civil War, except for his uniform. He bought that. And but it was a great piece.
Thank you. We're going to wrap it up here. We're just about out of time. This is United States Veterans Arts Program. We are very happy to have Konrad Hack here. We would love for you to get in touch with our organization if you're interested in anything more about Konrad Hack or anything else about veterans in the arts. I'm going to show our internet address here. We are, again, interested in encouraging veterans to express themselves through any particular art form that they can find, and find a way to talk to people that doesn't involve being judged, being critiqued, being competitive, or being criticized. And you have an amazing body of work that we would only hope that one would be able to be proud of, be able to do that. And we thank you so very much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Great. Thanks.